my name is Rita Anrichinda, and welcome to #IP series, which features conversations on recent intellectual property cases and development globally. If you're a first-time listener, thank you so much for listening to my podcast. I do appreciate it. Don't forget to favorite or subscribe to my podcast on any of the platform you're currently listening to. For my returning listeners, I love you guys. Thank you so much for always motivating and encouraging me. I see the streams, I see the plays, I see the likes, I see the subscriptions, I see the favorites. I'm super excited. But yeah, I do appreciate you guys, and welcome to today's episode. So today's episode to me is like a blast from the past. Karma doing its work, because the star brand here a few years ago was not patient enough with another star, and today some other star did something that people have insinuated that the action of our star guest for today had something to do with the business. I mean, they lost a huge ton of money, but I have a different view with regards to this whole drama. So I'm just going to get right into it. According to Global Sports Market Reports, the sports industry is worth $440.7 billion at a compound annual growth rate, and also contributes to a country's FDI, that's foreign direct investment. So I'm playing around this because I'm super excited. But what you hear me talk about today, I'm talking on sponsorship, endorsements, third-party sponsorship, ambush marketing, and what the stakeholders of the sports industry should take note of, especially within Africa. I mean, Africa has been touted to be like the next big thing. But what are we doing in terms of the other sectors and industries that, rely on intellectual property? I always see the IP elements or the interplay of IP and every sector. And this is what happened in this case today. Our guest, the famous Cristiano Ronaldo, and one of the most famous brands in the world, Coca-Cola, that is said to have like one of the oldest trade secrets in the world. But that's not what's important today. What's important is how one person's action was insinuated to be the cause of the company losing a lot of money. I mean, I think a lot of people are missing the IP elements of this, which is what I'm going to focus on. So yeah, I hope you guys have a good ride listening to me. So yeah, let's get right into it. Athletes are sometimes left at the mercy of organizers who may want to take advantage of their name, likeness, brands by commercializing and exploiting their intellectual property rights which are attached to these athletes. And we know that athletes are like IPs who have like a time bound, whose careers are time bound. So you play for a couple of years as a footballer, or you a track, any of the sports, you engage in any of the sporting activities, and then tops maybe 10-15 years, and then you retire. How do you keep generating income from those what you've done within the last few years? And at every sporting event, there's one brand or the other that wants to be affiliated to an athlete, that feels the presence or the perception their consumers will get once they see these athletes are affiliated to them might do something to their brand. So on the 16th of June 2021, at a pre-match press conference at the ongoing European Championship, Cristiano Ronaldo, CR7, removed 2 Coke bottles from the table that was placed in front of him, and lifted the bottled water and said "agua" in his native Portuguese language, which is translated to mean drink water. Now, that singular act has been said to have influenced the market and made Coca-Cola lose about $4 billion. They were worth 242 billion, and now they are currently at $238 billion. Can you imagine? I mean, everyone was focusing so much on perception, influence, why you need to trademark this, and all of this. And I was like, nah. But anyways, these are just my thoughts. So, few things we need to take note of is that, one, Coca-Cola is the official non-alcoholic beverage sponsor for Euro 2020. And part of the agreement that they had with the company or the sports organizers is that the company could showcase several of its brands, like their sparkling beverages, sports drink, water, ready-to-drink coffee, and fruit-based drink. Now, after CR7's act, Coca-Cola responded by saying, everyone is entitled to their drink preference with different tastes and needs, which I agree. While the Euro spokesperson stated that players are offered water alongside Coca-Cola and Coca-Cola Zero Sugar on arrival at every press conference. Now, why I had stated in the beginning that this is like a blast from the past was because of an incident that took place in 2012, where Ronaldinho lost his £500,000 deal as an ambassador for Coca-Cola simply because he drank Pepsi at the press conference. Coca-Cola, in this case, was fast in terminating their contract with Ronaldinho, whereas in this case of CR7, that's Cristiano Ronaldo, they lost money. So I'm just going to delve into the intricacies of some silent issues like personal branding, endorsement, sponsorship, ambush marketing, and what the African sports sector or industry can look at in terms of exploring the business side of the sports sector. Hence, issue number 1: personal brands, image right, likeness, and right of publicity for athletes, and how it is exploited and commercialized. This basically entails the use of sports athletes, their name, logo, signature, catchphrases. So when Usain Bolt wins, there's this signature pose he does. Same with several other football athletes. Same with other sports athletes when they win. All those expressions. Some has even gone to trademark their name, like CR7 has a trademark, Lionel Messi. Then we had one of a case between the late Maradona and one of these luxury brands. Now, all of these things are very valuable to sports athletes. The same way this is valuable to the athletes, it is also valuable to the sports bodies and organizers and potential sponsors. This can lead to negotiations with the athletes alone or with the club or association that these athletes represent, which now ties them to the brand in question. And the thing is that when this is done, you don't see the sports organizers anywhere or associations anywhere, just the athletes, their club or association. So if you're representing, say, a Real Madrid club or Arsenal club, go Arsenal, go Chelsea. So my dad is a Chelsea fan. But yeah, negotiations come in, the agents come in, the lawyers come in, everyone sits at the table and have the conversation, and then they agree to certain things. Now, commercializing and exploiting of their image rights can also generate income for the artists and also generate consumers' attention to the brand in question. So let's use the Ronaldinho's case. Ronaldinho was a brand ambassador for Coca-Cola, and consumers' perception. Oh, I love Ronaldinho because he's a brand ambassador for Ronaldinho. I'm going to be taking Coca-Cola. Do you get? And amongst all of the IPs, trademark is one that focuses more on consumers' perception, because the consumers are kings. The consumers are the one that gets to decide whether you sell or you don't sell. Then you have athletes like Usain Bolt. I already mentioned that, who commercialized his personal brand, which he has reused. So when it's just the athletes alone and the brands, they can always, license to several different brands and bring in money for themselves. So Usain Bolt has endorsement deals with brands like Virgin Media, Go Trades, and his personal brand alone is valued at $27 million, and that was in 2017. You also have athletes like LeBron James. Then athletes can also explore their personal brand through commercialization of their names, likeness, signature, which can be licensed. I already talked about that. So, for instance, in the course of my research, I stumbled upon the David Beckham case, where he was saying that his face, he was the face of the Hague Club whiskey, and if you fail to obtain consent or permission or authorization, that is like CPA, you will get sued by the athletes. For instance, in 2019, I did make mention of that too, but I'll just state it again. Late Maradona sued Dolce and Gabbana over the unauthorized use of his name and likeness without his permission. He claimed that that's Dolce and Gabbana claimed that they were paying tribute to the football icon, but they ended up paying Diego Maradona £59,000 in damages, and also paid for his legal fees, which now amounted to £70,000. So if you're a football athlete out there, you should take note of the fact that your image, your face, whatever you do has monetary value to it, and that's something that I would love to see sporting clubs, African athletes explore, especially within Nigeria. I want to see our local stars having brand endorsement deals, sponsorships, and thinking about how you can keep making money, because I don't think a lot of us are happy when we keep seeing stories of, oh, come save this person. He used to be one of the greatest footballers in 1990 something, and he's looking for money to do this, do that. You get? When it comes to personal branding, it is important that sports athletes retain control over the use of their personality by maximizing their potential, so as to keep generating revenue for themselves even after they retire, because your career is time bound. You get? So in this era where you have influencers and social media, most brands now want to explore digital marketing strategy, which makes it easy for an athlete with large following like CR7, that's Cristiano Ronaldo, to be seen, for him to be seen taking Coca-Cola at the pre-match conference would have had a positive effect on the brand, and maybe a positive or negative effect on his own personal brand. And all of this has to be taken into consideration. You can't give a free endorsement, especially on the part of CR7, who is said to have like the most followers on social media platform like Instagram. We also live in an era where information spreads like fire. Like, it's easy for someone to just retweet, share, do a broadcast on various social media platforms, and the information is out there like, oh, CR7 took Coca-Cola today. Coca-Cola made $500 million in one day. His considered to be, or people, consumers or fans are having perception like, oh, maybe he's signed to Coca-Cola and they get to tell us and this is their own way of coming out. You get all of those things has to be taken into consideration, which is why it's very important as an artist. You need to protect your personal brand. Know that it's like, that's like your gold mine. No one should have access to your gold mine without your consent. Personal branding can be likened to be, especially in this era, using your social media platform where you can be considered to be a major influencer. You can also change consumers' perception about the brand. Anything done by athletes or even celebrities is considered to be an advert, no matter how subtle it might be. Personal branding by athletes can be explored by trademarking their names like CR7, their logos, signature pose, creating merchandise for it. Also, when you're developing your personal brand, you can do that with the help of your lawyer, not without the help of your lawyer. Two people you need, your agent and your lawyer, your sports lawyer, or any lawyer versed in intellectual property law and sports law, because they always have your interests at heart. Their job is to protect your interests legally and also help you secure deals and make sure that you get the best offer in your contracts or your negotiation or your endorsements. Issue number 2. So I'll be talking now on sponsorship, endorsements, image rights, ambushing, third-party marketing. So I'm just going to jumble it all because of our study for today. So how can sports stakeholders exploit the IP aspect of sponsorship, endorsements, and all of this? First of all, in the sports industry, image rights are considered to be a way for athletes to exploit their personal brands by associating themselves to brands and merchandise which has commercial value, and also helps generate extra revenue by giving the athletes the right to control, sell, license, or even monetize their name, likeness, image, and signature. It is also a good marketing strategy for sports athletes, given the short lifespan of their character. So in light of our case study for today, what would have happened if CR7 had not removed the Coke bottles? Unlike when in 2012, Ronaldinho drank the Pepsi on the table during a press conference. Everything boils down to contracts. Was that part of the negotiation that CR7 had? Or does his contract say that while you signed to this brand, he should not be affiliated with another brand, even though they are sponsors of the game he will be participating in? What is the take home for African athletes from this act? That the mere presence or action from an athlete can help do good to both the brand and the athletes financially, and also make them to be valuable assets and not used in a misleading way. There is a need for the sports industry in Africa to start exploring the business side of sports through intellectual property rights, and also understand the concepts of contracts in relation to sponsorship and endorsements. What are the legal remedy available for image rights infringements, damages, interim and final injunction. So a case that I feel most of us might relate to is the one between Mohan Salah in 2018, which involved it is with the Egypt FA, his country's football association, over the use of his image on the national team's plane without his consent, permission, and authorization, especially since he had a sponsorship deal with Vodafone, who was not a sponsor of the Egyptian Football Association, whose sponsors were a telecommunication company called WE, W-E, and it was part of Mo Salah's sponsorship agreement that he cannot associate himself with their competitors. Anyone that's considered to be a competitor, he should not associate himself with them. And maybe that was the case here with CR7. However, it's the drink water, that is Agua, that is driving the internet insane. Like, it's more like dude is trying to project healthy living and, bashing Coca-Cola for being a beverage or something. So, but yeah, I think this case of the Mohan Salah is a pretty good example that contracts also drives how athletes respond to certain situation. Sponsorship and endorsement is how sports athletes and sports organizations generate income for themselves in terms of planning and organizing. So now we have the Tokyo Olympics coming up. You see a lot of brands wanting to sponsor, already sponsor. Then you now have issues where brands who did not have the opportunity to sponsor want to indirectly project themselves or market themselves. That's where ambush and third-party marketing comes into place, where they just put hints about their brand around the sporting facility, or want to force their products or brands on a particular athlete or something. So contract is what determines what happens between the athletes, because sometimes the athletes are not there when they are having these conversations with the sponsors and the sports organizers having conversations. So I feel going forward, organizers should always involve the sports athletes, make inquiries as to whether or not this contravenes their own personal contracts or branding deals or sponsorship deals with other brands, and maybe work with the brands that are affiliated with the athletes. So we're wrapping up now. What are my recommendations? What is the take home for African sports industry? 1, sports bodies and organizers should do their due diligence, make your inquiries, do your risk analysis, prevent personal brand damage to the athletes. Don't interfere with the personal brandings or image of the athletes. Ensure that athletes are in the know as to the sponsorship agreement or arrangement with the sponsors. Discourage third-party marketing strategies and ambush marketing, either by being proactive or working with enforcement agencies. Stop sending out the wrong message to consumers by misleading acts. I see this CR incident as a misleading act by the sponsors, organizers, and Coca-Cola itself. Another thing I'll be recommending is that sports organizers should be held liable for their actions. I mean, you clearly, even though Coca-Cola is like a sponsor, official sponsor, the athletes should be in the know. So what happens if CR7 loses his endorsement deals with another company or another brand? So you should be held liable for your actions, for not being sensitive to their own contractual relationship. Sponsorship and endorsement deals are exclusive rights that parties involved are to adhere to. Avoid conflicting personal endorsements arrangement with organizers. Arrange marketing with sponsors, e.g., for instance, now the London 2012 Olympics, where Adidas sponsored athletes, and the athletes themselves had other endorsements and sponsorship from other brands. That was, it raised a little dust. Athletes should explore, exploit, and commercialize their own personal brand and not be forced by the sporting organizers to help them market or commercialize or sell the market of their sponsors. Sport organizers and athletes should have clear terms on the scope of an athlete's freedom to also adhere to their own terms of their personal endorsements, marketing, influencing activities. There should be more education and advocacy on the issue around sponsorship arrangement to foster transparency and disclose obligations in athletes' contract for personal endorsement deals. Athletes in Africa should be encouraged and advised to negotiate their contractual reliefs in their personal sponsorship agreement, especially where they are required or asked to do things that are contrary to the demands of their own individual sponsors, by including a relief from liability for not complying. The business of sports deals should be taken seriously by all stakeholders, especially within Africa. I keep making emphasis on Africa because we're yet to scratch the surface of the business aspect of the sports sector. Although in 2020, the Nigerian sports industry, through the NESG, drafted a sports policy that had some information on what they intend to do in relation to intellectual property. So kudos to the sports sector, but then a lot more still needs to be done. And then finally, guys, there's a need to develop the sports, to develop the negotiation skills, that's for artists, by retaining ownership in their personal brand. And finally, all stakeholders should involve lawyers knowledgeable in sports law and intellectual property. Also, inquiries should be made so you don't get defrauded by agents, but then athletes should have their own personal lawyers that will guide them on what to do and not what to do, whether or not to go into this contract, what are the benefits, what are the demerits, Yeah, so I hope you guys had a good time listening to this. So these are just my thoughts, not an advice. If you need an advice, you know what to do, guys. Send me an email, ipseriesInfo@gmail.com, or you can hop into my DM at Esmeraldo99 or any of our social media platform. We're on LinkedIn, #IPSeriesWithReader, REEDAH. We're also on Facebook, #IPSeriesPodcast. We're also on Instagram at ip.series1. We're also on Twitter at ipseries1. So, yay! So, we've come to the end of today's episode. I hope you guys found it really engaging and you learned something. If you do, give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and see you on the next episode, guys. Cheers!